Impeachment is officially back on the table, and this time it's different. This is not a symbolic protest vote. This is not a fringe effort designed to make noise and quietly disappear. Something fundamentally changed this week. 140 members of Congress went on the record in support of moving forward with impeaching Donald Trump. Let that number sink in. 140 lawmakers, nearly a third of the entire House of Representatives, publicly said they believed the sitting president should face impeachment. And now, with the 2026 campaign season beginning to heat up, the Senate is staring down the real possibility of another impeachment fight. Before we go any further, there's something important to acknowledge. Mainstream coverage of this story has been incomplete. Yes, they've reported the vote totals. Yes, they've mentioned that leadership managed to table the resolution. But what they haven't explained is why 140 members broke ranks anyway, why this number is significantly higher than previous attempts, and why the momentum behind this effort is moving in only one direction. That's what actually matters, and that's what we're breaking down here. Here's what really happened on December 11th. This wasn't a quiet procedural move behind closed doors. It was loud, it was public, and it was deliberate. Democratic Congressman Al Green of Texas used a procedural mechanism that forced House leadership into a corner. There was no way to bury the issue quietly. The House had to vote publicly, and every member had to go on the record. As the clerk called the roll, the pattern was unmistakable. Vote after vote, name after name, guilty, not guilty, leadership scrambled. In an extraordinary move, Democratic leaders joined Republicans to table the resolution and stop it from advancing immediately. Technically, they succeeded. But here's what cannot be ignored. 140 members voted to advance impeachment anyway. They defied leadership. They took a public stand. And they said impeachment should happen now, not later, not after the election. That number matters because this wasn't just the progressive wing. This wasn't a symbolic show by a handful of outspoken members. Moderates voted yes. Lawmakers from competitive swing districts voted yes. Members who usually avoid controversy because of re-election concerns took the risk anyway. That tells you everything you need to know about the pressure building inside the Democratic caucus. And at the center of this push is Al Green, who is not backing down. After the vote, Green delivered a blistering floor speech accusing Trump of normalizing political violence. Not hinting at it, not flirting with it, normalizing it. He argued that Trump has created an environment where threatening lawmakers, even implying they deserve harm, is becoming acceptable. Then Green raised the stakes even higher. He announced what he called a countdown to impeachment, promising to file additional articles before the Christmas break. His message was blunt. Congress cannot allow a president to make violence against lawmakers feel justified. That is not rhetoric. That is a sitting member of Congress accusing the president of endangering the legislative branch. And 140 members agreed enough to vote for impeachment. This didn't happen overnight. Green has been pushing toward this moment all year. This was his third attempt. His first focused on abuse of presidential power, arguing Trump was using the office to punish political enemies and weaken institutional checks. It went nowhere. Leadership wasn't interested, and memories of Trump's first impeachment loomed large. The second attempt centered on foreign policy, accusing Trump of making unilateral military commitments without congressional approval. Again, it failed to gain traction. But then something changed. Over the summer and fall, Trump's rhetoric escalated dramatically. He began openly talking about jailing political opponents. He framed critics as enemies and traitors. The language carried a clear implication. These people deserve punishment, and this wasn't happening in a vacuum. Capitol Police documented a surge in credible threats against lawmakers. Not just online harassment, but serious threats requiring increased security. Some members needed protective details. Offices and families were warned. And time after time, these threats followed Trump's speeches and statements where opponents were dehumanized. That's when Green shifted his strategy. Political violence became the centerpiece of the impeachment case. He cited what experts call stochastic terrorism, the idea that leaders don't need to order violence directly, only create conditions where supporters feel justified acting on their own. We've seen this before. January 6th proved it. Green's argument is simple but profound. A president cannot attack a co-equal branch of government by fostering fear among lawmakers and still claim to govern democratically. So when December 11th arrived, Green forced the vote. Leadership tried to shut it down. They called it risky, divisive, premature. But 140 members said no, and that changes everything. Because if this support continues to grow, if more members flip, if another scandal breaks, if Trump escalates again, the House could pass articles of impeachment. And once that happens, the Senate has no choice. The Constitution is clear. The Senate must act. They must hold a trial. That's where the real nightmare begins for Republicans. A real trial means weeks or months of testimony, evidence, and headlines. Trump's agenda freezes. Every senator is forced to take a public position. Every ugly detail becomes national news. But rushing through a sham trial isn't safe either. That looks like a cover-up, party loyalty over democratic norms, exactly the narrative Democrats want heading into 2026. Republicans are trapped. Privately, many don't want to defend Trump anymore. They're exhausted, but they remember what happened last time. Senators who voted to convict paid a heavy price. Some retired. Others faced relentless harassment, yet politics shifts. As the midterms approach, protecting Trump could become more dangerous than breaking with him. That's the bet Democrats are making. That impeachment framed around political violence and democratic stability will resonate with voters tired of chaos. And this isn't happening in isolation. Allegations involving Epstein files, accusations of corruption, claims of DOJ interference. Each story alone might not move the needle, but together they form a pattern, an administration that believes it's untouchable. Green has framed impeachment as more than a single act. He calls it a test of congressional authority itself. If Congress fails to act now, he argues, it sends a message that future presidents can go even further without consequence. Avoiding controversy hasn't stabilized anything. Trump hasn't moderated, threats haven't slowed, scandals haven't stopped, doing nothing hasn't lowered the temperature, so now the collision course is set, more articles are coming. Support is growing, the Senate is bracing, and Trump is doubling down on the very rhetoric that created this moment. The next few weeks matter. One more major incident. One more explosive statement. One more credible threat tied back to Trump's words, and the balance could tip. Because this isn't just about Donald Trump. It's about whether Congress still functions as a real check on presidential power, or whether that authority has quietly slipped away. And once it's gone, it doesn't come back easily.